Within the shadowy embrace of Mirkwood lies Dol Guldur, a hunting relic of time steeped in darkness and dread. Once a fortress of the Nazgul, its crumbling walls echo tales of ancient sorcery and a sinister power, where malevolent forces conspired to plunge Middle-earth into despair. Though its halls now lay silent, the ominous air still whispers of the terror that once thrived there. Join me as I delve into building these mysterious and foreboding ruins as terrain for Middle-earth strategy battle game, using the new Slice and Slot Desolate dungeon system from Microforge Minis.
So let's get stuck straight into some Slice and Slot goodness, or should I say badness. Yes, Microforge Minis has joined the legions of Sauron's minions as their chief architectural designer and is now producing evil terrain for the tabletop. Some might even say the position has gone to his head. Yes. With evil arches, windows, architraves, gribbles and crenellations to add to your 10mm thick XPS foam, architect Albert has created a system hopefully resulting in terrain that will scare the living daylights out of your players the moment they walk into your gaming room.
Scorematic 10,000.
Alongside the awesome STL files comes a set of easy to assembly laser cut MDF jigs that make cutting your foam to the precise shape you need incredibly easy, and it also smells amazing. Gotta love the smell of fresh cut MDF. It does take some time to print enough pieces to make a decent set of terrain, but straight away you can see the effort that has gone into the detail on these designs. Albert is actually an architect in real life, and those skills have clearly been used and abused in his approach to creating terrain for the tabletop. These crenellations, for instance, have clearly been influenced by the metal flashing you might see around the tops of old churches and castles. To get started though, you're going to need some XPS foam, and I'm going to drop a pearl of wisdom for any crafters here in the UK. You can get huge sheets of 10mm XPS foam from the underfloorheatingstore.com, and to make it even easier for you guys, I'm going to drop a link in the description below this video. Once you have scored all of your horizontal lines using the Scorematic 10,000 jig, it's time to carve your brick pattern. Clearly, I have been out of the YouTube game for so long that I've lost my magic YouTube finger clicking powers to skip this laborious task. Once your brick pattern is carved though, all that remains is to texture your foam with the old classic tinfoil ball trick, and then it's time for a little jig. No, not that kind of jig, an MDF window jig. Oh well, the music has started now, so I might as well let it run while I assemble some runes. In classic 2 steps forward and 1 step back fashion, once I had figured out all of the shapes of the individual terrain pieces, I realised that I hadn't primed any of my 3D prints. It's a good job I noticed this blooper before I finally glued everything into place, because priming up resin prints whilst attached to XPS foam could result in melted foam. Unless of course you use foam safe primer. If anyone out there knows of a good foam safe primer, please let me know in the comments below. Once primed up, I used wood glue as my adhesive for the final assembly and let everything dry overnight. Creating stunning tabletop scatter terrain can be a rewarding challenge. There are many different materials at our disposal, and for my centerpiece I turned to PIR foam. This versatile material is incredibly easy to carve with a simple hobby knife, allowing me to shape intricate designs with precision. Although with rocks you don't need much of that. The result? A beautifully textured rock surface that looks convincingly realistic on the battlefield. But a word of caution, while PIR foam is great for sculpting, never use a hot wire cutter on it. The fumes can be harmful and it can melt in unpredictable ways. Once I had my centerpiece based, I decided to use 3mm thick MDF for my smaller scatter terrain. To start, I simply drew the shape of the base on the MDF with a pencil, matching the general shape of the runes. But once again, crafting can have its hazards, and it's important to wear a face mask before cutting, as the dust from MDF can be harmful when inhaled. Safety first. For cutting, I use a coping saw, which gives me great control over the intricate shapes. Once I had them cut out, I used some fine grit sandpaper to smooth off all of the rough edges, making sure to keep the mask on so as not to send myself into an early grave. I then glued all of my runes to the bases using hot glue. Quick and effective. Around the edges of my XPS Foam, I used a hobby knife to make sure that the brickwork connected up on both sides, and while I was at it, I figured I would add some more damage and texture to the model, considering that these runes have been through many battles and tribulations through the ages of Middle-earth. Now, you can see here that I'm gluing some strategically placed magnets to the terrain, putting them beside the epic arches, and this is so I can later include some magnetically triggered fire sconces that I made in a previous video, creating an incredibly easy way with no wires in the terrain to add ominous atmosphere to the tabletop. The sconces used the Whistling Castle boards designed by my good friend David over at Terraintronics, the home of LED and electronic innovations for tabletop gaming. Make sure to check out that tutorial video after watching this because it is such a game changer. Even though I was happy with the rock texture I achieved using PIR foam, I wanted to take it a step further, so I added real bark to enhance the natural rugged look. Bark has this incredibly organic, craggy surface that instantly gives a more convincing rock face. I glued it directly to the foam and then used Sculpt-A-Mold to fill in all of the gaps and blend everything together seamlessly. Sculpt-A-Mold is lightweight, easy to shape and dries with a slightly gritty finish, perfect for terrain work. To unify the surface and boost realism, I made my own texture paste by mixing tile grout, wood glue and a bit of water. It's cheap, customizable and dries hard with that rough stone feel. These materials are not only affordable, but they also layer together beautifully to create a gritty, realistic rock effect that looks far more complex than it actually is.
Do you want to do a little cross-pollination? You could do a little shout out.
Mutual shout outs here for sure.
Just say, if you want to check out another awesome build, head over to whatever. I'd be more than happy to do that, man.
Don't go and have a look at John because he's a dick.
Is he doing one though? He's done.
He's already done it.
I know. Oh yeah. The evil shed. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, go and check out John's evil shed. It's awesome.
Yeah.
A brief segue from the crafting just to give a shout out to Adam from 3D Games, Wargaming and Terrain, and also John from JMax Armies of Middle-earth, who have both done projects using the Desolate Dungeons system. Adam has done an epic frozen fortress, and John, well, he made an evil shed.
Isn't she just a beauty now?
Anyway, time to get this terrain painted with an epic painting montage. I begin by sealing the entire model in a dark mix of grey paint and Mod Podge. Not only does this protect the foam beneath, it also creates a deep shadow base. Every brush stroke locks in the darkness and starts the descent into ruin. Next, I overbrush the surface with a custom tan, a blend of burnt umber and titanium white. This brings warmth and edge to the stonework, letting those deeper shadows breathe while lifting the detail. It's not just paint, it's the first sign of life emerging from ruin. The cracks, the edges, the broken contours, they start to speak. Now I pick out individual bricks using red oxide, desert sand and barbarian flesh. These undertones break the uniformity, hinting at different stone types, age and forgotten repairs across the centuries. A dry brush of goblin green comes next, subtle, scattered but powerful. It adds algae, grime, decay, as if time and moisture have been quietly gnawing at this fortress. It's the dungeon, the dampness, the smell of rot made visible. Then I go back to the rock faces with a light grey dry brush. This catches every ridge and edge, revealing the stone's texture, like sunlight brushing across the shattered cliffside. I then mix an even lighter tan, again using burnt umber and titanium white, and dry brush it gently across the ruined walls. It adds chalky wear like centuries of wind and time have worn it smooth, sun bleached and forgotten. Now for the black wash. Just black paint and dirty brush water, slathered on everything. It seeps into cracks and crevices, deepening shadows, enhancing contrast and grounding every surface. But shadows alone aren't enough, so I bring in Agrax Earthshade. Dripping it deliberately along windowsills, archways and corners, it mimics the damage of rainfall and erosion, stains of time bleeding through the stone. These little touches tell ancient stories. Then comes the ironwork, the fortress's last line of defence. I start with rough iron, laying down a dull battered foundation. Then I dry brush plate metal over the raised edges to catch the light, as if hands once polished it long ago, but age has taken its toll. A final pass of rust effect paint settles into the texture, bleeding down like decay. It's old, it's worn, it's been through battles, and it shows. But the model wasn't quite done yet. It still needed more grime and more life. I turned to dirty down moss, miracle paint in a bottle, one pass and it breathes new wild decay into the scene. Moss creeps across the stone like nature reclaiming what's hers. And with that, the model is complete. Just setting up my final shots for hopefully the montage that you'll see at the beginning of the video, or did see. Guys, check out this Kickstarter. It's only got a few days left and it is absolutely awesome, so easy to make, and it just looks awesome. Massive thank you guys as always to my Patreon members. I'll see you guys in the next video.